I know the feeling when you stare at a countertop full of espresso gear and wonder whether adding another machine will actually improve your morning ritual or just add another layer of complexity. You've probably read a handful of headlines that promise the perfect grind every time, but the truth is you need to weigh how a grinder fits into your workflow, your budget, and the space you have. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this review I'm going to walk through what it's like to live with the Rocket Espresso Spluga, where its strengths really shine, where you might feel a pinch, and who should consider pressing the buy button versus who might be better off looking elsewhere. First off, the most common hesitation I hear from people who already own a decent espresso machine is whether a high-end grinder like the Spluga will actually make a noticeable difference in taste. The answer isn't a simple yes or no, it depends on how precise you need to be and how often you change your beans. The Spluga uses a 65mm flat burr set, which is a size you typically see in commercial-grade equipment. Those burrs spin fast enough to produce a consistent particle size across a dose, which means you'll notice a smoother extraction when you're dialing in a new roast or adjusting for a different bean origin. If you've been grinding with a small conical burr grinder and feel your espresso is a little inconsistent shot to shot, the flat burrs can give you that extra level of repeatability. What really separates this grinder from a lot of the other home options is the programmable dosing feature. You can set a timer for a single, double, or even a triple shot and the machine will stop automatically at the exact moment you programmed. In practice, that means you can walk away for a minute while the grinder does the heavy lifting, and when you come back you have the exact weight of coffee you need without having to eyeball a scoop. For a busy household where the morning rush is a real thing, that automation reduces the mental load. I tried setting a double dose for a classic Italian roast and then a triple dose for a lighter Ethiopian blend. Each time the machine delivered the same amount of ground coffee within a couple of seconds of variance. That consistency translates to fewer missed shots and less waste, which is a tangible value when you're buying premium beans. The touchscreen interface is another area where the Spluga tries to make a difference. It's a bright 3.5-inch display that lets you switch between dosage types, adjust grind size, and store multiple presets. The learning curve is surprisingly gentle, just a few taps and you're ready to go. The real-world benefit shows up when you experiment with different brew ratios. For instance, I like to keep a notebook of my espresso recipes, and with the touchscreen I can quickly pull up a preset for a 1 minute and 2.5 seconds ratio, then tweak the grind by a single click and see the resulting dose change on the screen. It eliminates the need to manually turn a knob while the grinder is humming, which can be messy and imprecise. Now, let's talk about the quick-release grind adjust. The Spluga's grind adjust knob can be unlocked, allowing you to make large swings in grind size without fighting resistance. That's handy if you're switching from a fine espresso grind to a coarser setting for a pour-over or a French press. In my own kitchen I keep a single set of beans that I grind for both espresso and drip coffee. With the quick release, I can turn the knob from the fine espresso setting to a medium coarse setting in under 10 seconds, then lock it back in place. The trade-off, however, is that the knob does feel a bit looser when unlocked, so you have to be mindful not to overshoot the desired setting. It's not a deal breaker, but it does require a little extra attention the first few times you make a big adjustment. One practical weakness that surfaces after a few weeks of use is the noise level. The 65mm burrs spin fast, and while that speed is part of what gives you a consistent grind, it also produces a louder whirring than many smaller home grinders. If you live in an apartment with thin walls, you'll notice the sound reverberate through the ceiling. For most dedicated home baristas, the noise isn't a major issue, but it's something to consider if you're planning to grind early in the morning while the rest of the house is still sleeping. Space is another factor that often surprises buyers. The Spluga sits on a sturdy base and measures roughly the size of a small kitchen appliance, but its footprint is larger than a typical entry-level grinder. If your countertop is already crowded with a machine, a knockbox, and a bean hopper, you'll need to carve out at least a foot of linear space. On the upside, the unit's sleek black finish blends well with most modern kitchen aesthetics, and the bottom of the base includes a small shelf.